picture behind Tony. And then the band was discussing the music. In the meantime, I took this picture, and while they were discussing about music, I received a email from a text message from a friend of mine from Tokyo, Kan Shirai, that he said, "Oh, I just went to Billboard Live website, and they are closing the venues." Actually, 15 minutes later, the guy from Billboard Live Osaka, he said the same. I say, wow. And then actually the day, next day when we had the show, he actually came from Osaka. And he told us that, all venues are canceled, and they were very nice to, organize our transportation to Tokyo, because in order to change the flights, we were in Nagoya, skipping Osaka. It was easier to go to Tokyo to get flights, because otherwise it's very complicated. And but we were lucky that Blue Note Nagoya was still operating, and that was literally the last day, 28th of February and 29th. Everything was closed, everything was shut down, and COVID wasn't spread in Japan, but they are accustomed to this kind of things because of the earthquakes and other things in the past. They are very conscious about the security and health in Japan, and they just closed. And and we decided, me, Markus, and Gary decided to do extra days. We recorded the album, Gary Husband and Markus Reuter, and everybody else flew home on March 1st, and it was very very strange experience. We were all kind of quiet, but actually in good mood. But we knew that something is happening. We really didn't know what, but we knew something is coming, and this is what came. Came out like this very unusual situation in the entire world. And this show was recorded, fortunately, because Stickman records almost all their shows. Robert Fratza, who is the sound manager of the band, recorded, and it was only one show of 90 minutes, and performance was amazing. Everybody was very inspired, and that's the little story. And here we are, and releasing this album, produced by Markus. Even though it's live album, Markus will explain that later, that this album was produced as it is like studio album, but everything was recorded live, and it really sounds fantastic. Then, Markus, you can say something about
Yeah, so let's
the live show and about that.
Yeah, let's talk a little more about the. I remember Pat definitely wanted to get out of the country, out of Japan, as quickly as possible, and so did Tony and Robert Fraser, I think. So what were your feelings, Tony, once we got the news?
I wasn't super worried about getting out and getting into the U.S., but I was concerned because hourly things were getting weirder, and the thought was maybe we can't get back in, which turned out, had we been on a cruise, would have been correct, but it turned out not to be exactly right. Of course, tremendously disappointed that the tour was canceled, and I tried not to get sucked into all of the financial aspects of which tickets we had bought, and airlines were not giving refunds automatically, and back then. Later, they were sort of forced to. So it was a tough time. And did that influence the music? Maybe. When you have a band that's improvising a lot, maybe everything influences it to some degree. So there was an edge to our music.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I had another 4 days in Tokyo after you had left, and when I was at the airport, Narita Airport, I think it was empty. It was it was unbelievable. Really was unbelievable. So when you guys left, maybe there were still people there trying to leave.
There were.
Not very many.
And I stayed also extra 4 days. Markus and Gary left because what is happening, in those days, airlines, as Tony said, they weren't allowed in changing, because nobody knew what was going to happen. But I had to stay because after Japan, I was supposed to go to Indonesia and Thailand for some other shows and festivals. And I had to stay extra in order not to pay humongous amount of money. And I stayed extra 4 days, and really airport was completely kind of silent. It was kind of, it was amazing. It was surreal.
Yeah. And Pat, how was it? How was that whole thing for you?
Well, you know, we were following the news here. It was actually back in January that Deborah saw something. Said, "You guys are going to China." She said, "This something going on over there." So we started following then, and I started to write you guys maybe early February. Is this going to happen? So actually, before we left, I had a feeling this whole thing isn't going to happen. But anyway, we flew over. So that's why when the gigs was canceled, I wanted to find my first flight back because I'd already started to look into it and saw what they were going to charge, you know, huge fees to get back home, which days would be available. Of course, we had to get from Nagoya back. And, you know, I just had, I'd had this cancer surgery in November after we finished Crimson. So I was supposed to be 6 months with my nose all taped up. So I'd actually been taped up, staying at home. I took it off one day in January to go see Tool at the Irwin Center. They asked me if I'd come by and set in, which I did. And then I put the thing back on my nose until we flew, took it off when I got there to Tokyo and then connected down. So yeah, I was disappointed about the gigs, but I really hadn't been practicing or playing at all. So I came in, I loaded up a bunch of samples and things because I'd been recording this record with Deborah and doing some Crimson material, and we'd done Peace. And so I had this recording of Deborah, and I'd had a vibraphone. We used vibes on some of these tracks I did with Deborah. Laura Scarborough came by, but she left him here overnight, so I recorded vibes when she wasn't here. So that's some of the loops and samples that we start the show with, were these Simboing things I did. So I had a bunch of stuff prepared like that for our show, but as far as actually playing drums, I hadn't played much until we got on stage, until little dressing rooms, you know, rehearsal, but yeah.
Yeah, and the Nagoya show was the first Stickman show in like 5 months or something. I think we had played in August.
Yeah, in August, since
Yeah.
like before the camp.
Yeah, so it was
Albany.
there's quite a gap, and then we also had our wonderful guest Gary Husband with us, obviously, who and it was the very first show for him with us, and it was the last show, at least at that point. And
Not because of how we played, though.
yeah, but we have to say, like, we actually played 2 sets, which for us basically comes down, it's to like almost like 2 shows. So for some of the pieces, Gary, you had two chances to get a good take, right? But it came out beautifully anyway. So how was this for you, Gary? I mean, for us it was a real pleasure to have you, and I really think that the addition of the keyboards to Stickman is just magical, because like you could add in all those colors, harmonic colors that you know, with a trio it's just very hard to do. And you came up with some beautiful re-harmonizations also in the track Prog Noir, for example. But like, how was the process for you?
It was very exciting, and I was very honored and happy to get the chance to do that. So I, right from the beginning, when I first heard the selection of music you guys were going to do, I was sort of approaching it like I approach most things, really, just to maintain the integrity of the sound of you guys all together, what that sound is about, what you all do, and try and come up with somewhere where there's a space. and maybe that's from a, you know, I can use that in a harmonic way, maybe add something, but it also has to do with sounds and when and where to do things. So I kind of plotted in seclusion, really, just hoping and praying that, you know, what I'd come up with might be acceptable for our 2-gig tour. You know? No, for our 1-gig tour, for our 2-show tour. As it turned out, but it was a tremendous pleasure, and of course I was still really getting my head around some of the time signatures of you guys and this music. But it's such colossal music, and I was drawn in from an emotional and committed point of being. And I enjoyed every second of it. I just wish we could have done the tour.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Cheers, Gary.
if I can interrupt,
Hey.
it's when I think of the amount of work you did to learn all that music and then to do it only really 2 shows one night, it's this not what you want to be doing. You have a lot of difficult music to learn. You want to do a lot of touring with it.
Yeah.
So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Hey, man, it was just such a great.
You might look at it as if you played it so well that we didn't want to tour anymore. Neither did anyone else. It was that good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why is your nose suddenly getting bigger there?
Pinocchio.
No, it was a great pleasure. Thank
Anyway,
you.
I have an idea. So Pat just mentioned that he had recorded Peter Sinfield's poem Peace with his wife Deborah, and he surprised us all playing that at the beginning of the show. So the show basically starts with the vibraphone sounds that he just mentioned, and
Well, I was
with
going to wait.
Deborah's
Nobody
voice.
else was playing.
Yes, maybe.
I planned to wait, but it took you guys forever to plug in.
But anyway, I'm gonna play a little bit of that first track now for you. Okay.
Great. Okay.
Here we go. So I'm actually fading this out now because it gets much more intense now, and I don't want to hear that right now. This has been, I actually had goosebumps, and this was kind of like the first time listening to this that I actually allowed myself to remember the instance of being there and having some sort of sense that it may be the last show for a very long time. I don't think that anybody of us was really prepared that it would last this long. But even like when Pat mentioned, when his wife said, like, you don't want to go to China, so even in January, I knew something is gonna happen. And somehow this music really represents that for me. And so what I tried to do when I compiled the tracks, I wanted to, on one hand, I didn't want to edit anything. So I wanted to keep the pieces, you know, just as they were played. But I also just wanted to bring out everything, every little detail and every little bit of emotion that I saw in it. And so it was quite a, I hadn't, I mean, it's been completed for a couple months now, and I only just was able to listen to it again properly. It's funny how you know, how we make these associations with sounds and emotions, and I think it's something that maybe you know, initially drew me to music really. And yeah, so anyway, Leonardo,
Yes.
so what's the implication of what is happening to our business?
Yeah, it's very difficult to say, because actually we, in terms of Stickman, we, this tour that didn't happen, we actually postponed to January to Japan and China, but I don't think it's going to happen, because in Japan you need to do like 2 weeks of quarantine if you are coming from USA. If you're coming from Europe, you don't need quarantine, which means only Markus and Gary will be able to go, but not Tony, Pat, and Robert. And we don't know, like, you know, as a booker, you know, I already have so many gigs booked for the next year, of not just of Stickman, of many other bands. And I'm just waiting, like, you know, if they don't happen, at least I have booked them. If they don't happen, I will rebook them, you know, the next available period. I think it's not only me, it's everybody that is doing it that way. We have just to see what is happening. In Europe, situation is a little bit different, better, but we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. Maybe there will be another surge, then we don't know. We have to be patient, and but this is definitely affecting a lot everybody involved. It's not musicians, venues, agents, like, you know, people, the crew, like roadies and sound engineers. Everybody's affected, and
Yeah.
and we you know, I don't know, like we have also a Stickman tour in USA, in Canada, in April and early May. I don't know if it's gonna, you know, let's hope it's going to happen. There is also a tour in Europe that we have to see now in October, November.
Yeah.
We don't know. We have to wait, be patient, and do something else, like, you know, making music at home, doing this kind of events like on Zoom, and be very hopeful and positive, and something will happen, because in life always something's happen, and I just hope that something will come very soon, not too late.
Yeah, and I mean, Leo, we didn't really just sit down and wait for things to happen. We did the album with Gary, right? And
No, because
and
actually,
from the very beginning, it was clear that we wanted to mix this show from
right,
Nagoya, and
right,
you know, it's like my idea was to really try to make it sound like a studio record, or like a record that had been produced. And that's why I asked, you know, my friend Fabio Trentini, who is you know, a musician I play with and also a co-producer that I work with a lot. He recommended to me Stefano Castagna, and so Stefano is also here, and Stefano mixed the record in the old-fashioned way, let's say, but also the great sounding way, with like really focusing on the sound and the all the details, with his wonderfully expensive gear, you know. You know, you could probably buy I don't know, a couple thousand MacBooks or MacBook Pros for what he has for equipment. Anyway, and it came out as something really unique with the textures of Gary, and you know, what Gary, what was so exciting for me actually is when we sent you the material, I realized later that we hadn't actually labeled the pieces, so you didn't know really which piece was a Crimson piece or which one was a Stickman tune. And I remember you saying you liked Level 5 so much, which is a Crimson piece. And I didn't, yeah. So and so it was so fascinating that you approached this just as almost like the glue. You kind of became the glue between these pieces that came from different phases of our band, that come from like playing larks and talking drum, like old Crimson stuff, and Level 5, like later Crimson music, and Stickman music from 10 years, a period from 10 years. Like there are 2 improvisations on the record, and plus Swimming in Tea, which has which is a new piece that has an improv in the middle as well. And so you sort of became the glue. And yeah.
Well, I'm a sticky guy, you know. I'm, you know.
Stick with Stickman. Oh.
Yeah, but yes, go ahead, please.
No, it was fun. It's just really trying to use my intuition and try to be appropriate, but also provocative in a way that hopefully people would go, oh, well, this is different, and it's looking at another way to do it, and you know, but not trying to impose. You know, it's definitely a sort of balance to try to come into a situation with this music so wonderfully and impressively formed, and what a concept behind it. And it's a little bit daunting sometimes to not think, well, I'm just going to put my foot in it somewhere, and this is going to feel clumsy to people, because there's usually space harmonically or in terms of texture in this part, and now there isn't, or and maybe that can work the opposite. It's like, oh, now this feels full, because maybe, as you say, Marcus, there's an element, especially with keyboards, we can act as some kind of glue. Anyway, so just to try to make the right decisions, really. I have to say that, you know, playing along to this great live album you did with David Cross, it was enlightening to me, because for one, it gave me a perspective on how much an included artist would be doing in terms of just input or maybe just internal parts in the music, but also just the amount of contribution and the kind of way he approached it was inspiring to me, or rather enlightening to me, hopefully, as to how to begin to form how I'd start to take part, you know. And it was great. The only thing is, I started to miss the violin, so I actually took a few of his the places where he played, not really use his notes, but just again, just using intuition, like where could it be nice if I doubled a melody? Where would it be nice if I do some kind of counter melodic contribution? And where would it be nice if I try to totally fuck up the harmony for for one of yours already great songs? And to my amazement, Tony said, "Yeah, do that."
Yeah, that was amazing. So wow. I mean, I was just to hear the recording again. I think, wow, that was quite a liberty I took there. And you know, how are these guys gonna let me get away with that? But they did. Do you guys remember that Tony asked to have you muted in his monitors for the song?
Yeah,
That's right.
turn off the keyboard player.
But it turns out, like, I've listened to it so many times now. Now it sounds the way that it should have always been.
Well, that's really nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Shall we have a listen to Proc Noir?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do that. So here we go. Oops, I just need to fade us in. So many windows on my screen.
Me too. Jesus.
Okay.
It's nice to see you all, though. I don't get to say hi because you don't know, but.
Yeah.
Driving rain has washed our van in gloom once again. We've sailed this silver road so long. From light, squeeze the night for life. And it holds. We try to steal the thunder song. We're living in. We drive. The life we made. We're living in, inhaling where we are. A place where darker dreams are made. A place we call Broadway. I drink the wind, I breathe the rain inside, try to feel it's hunger for the light of day.
You have to unmute. No.
Sorry.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so I was the one who was responsible for producing this, which also meant that I had to listen to everything. And what I mean by that is not just each individual piece that was played in those 2 hours, but also every single track of the multi-tracks. And Pat, you said you hadn't played in a long time, but actually the performance was incredibly solid, like from all of us, which actually surprised me a lot, I have to say. Like for me, it's always interesting to kind of dive in and see, like, what have we done before, where we warmed up, and like this show somehow came out of like we came in cold, so to say, and it actually was a good performance, a really good performance. And so anyway, because Stefano mixed it in the analog way, I had to make sure that what I sent him is sort of kind of final, because he uses the, like I said, the desk and like no automation and things. So he only had one chance to get each mix right. So that's why, I mean, this is something we're used to, but not really in this fashion. Like he sent me a mix and I forwarded it to Tony, to Pat, and to Gary, and asked them for feedback. And especially Pat, who I think has one of the, well, he will laugh about this, but he has one of the best ears I've ever witnessed. But so Pat really gave incredible feedback to make the mixes go, like from, I don't know, like I don't want to say like a percentage, like from say 70% to 95%. And then I maybe had a few things to add. And Gary asked for his keyboards to be a little softer, a little louder, or a little less DI sounding and things like that. But the process was very, very interesting for me because it was so unlike what I'm used to these days. And like, so you have to think like, so there's one day, one mix. So Stefano, I think he worked on the mixes for about like 10 days, 11 days, something like that. And Stefano also did the mastering later on, onto tape actually. And there is something where I again have to refer to Leonardo. He's going to tell us something about these interesting formats that this album OWARI will be available in.
Yeah, I have also very good news that in literally in a couple of minutes, I will unleash all docs on Bandcamp and everything will be available. And we have multiple formats. Because of the limitation of Bandcamp that we have only like 600 megabytes per tune, digital files are in 16-bit. But whoever wants to receive 24 bits, then there is information on the Bandcamp that they can email me. I can send them a link, which means we have a high definition download. Then we have a special CD book edition, which is limited with 24 pages booklet, one bonus track. It's a very beautiful package with a hardcover and something very unusual. We wanted to do something very special. Then we have a double LP gatefold, 180 grams for all those that are freaks for LPs and will sound marvelously because Stefan is an amazing engineer. And then we also have something that very few people are doing. Actually, more and more people are doing. We have a cassette. Believe it or not, we have a Cobalt cassette. Limited
You're
edition.
kidding.
Limited edition, only 100. Cobalt, they're very special cassette. They are not just regular cassettes. And every single cassette will be recorded in real time, which means 60 minutes of each cassette will be recorded in 60 minutes. It's not something that you press and multiply. Every cassette will be recorded one by one. There is no multiple tape recorded that you put like 20 or 100 cassettes and everything is done in a few hours. No, everything will be one by one. Then we have master tapes. Master tapes are kind of those big, beautiful tapes, like it's all analog, 2-inch tapes. And you can find more information on Bandcamp. I just published everything, and you go to stickman.moonjune.com, bandcamp.com, and then you can check. You can also sample a couple of tunes, and you can see what is available. And also we have a T-shirt. T-shirt is already on pre-sale for a couple of weeks, and it's a beautiful T-shirt. You know, I hope that many of you or all of you will be satisfied with this kind of line of products that we are offering, because we want this to be very, very special, very unique, and not just kind of any kind of, you know, live recording that we are doing, you know, in this way, like kind of similar what we did with Stick Me with David Cross. We toured in 10 countries all around Latin America, which is a very special project, and hope you can enjoy that.
Yeah, I was surprised to
Wow.
hear that there's a market for master tapes.
Can I tell you something, Markus?
Yeah.
We already sold one, believe it or not. and you can imagine who that guy is in Cleveland, like, you know, our biggest fan, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeffrey, for doing that. He's the first guy who put just this on, you know, actually there is a market for it.
Yeah, and I mean, Stefano he's kind of starting a label for master tapes, actually, which I find fascinating. And
is it hard to get the tape? For a while, for years, it was hard to actually get the tape.
Yeah, I don't know about the availability, but
Stefano told me that it takes like 3 to 4 weeks. You have to order them. They're very special tapes.
But you can get it. Huh.
You can get it.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted music on the tape. Different kind of tape.
Yeah, so maybe somebody can, or maybe Stefano, can you post a link to your studio, Ritmo e Blu, onto the chat, so people can check out your website. And we also have a like, maybe when somebody else is going to talk in a few minutes, I can post a link to a video that Stefano did in his studio as he was mixing, and he explains a little bit about the process. That's something you can watch later. Maybe everybody can watch later.
Actually, I posted also that video link on Bandcamp.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. So people can see it there.
But in any case, I will be releasing like a newsletter tomorrow, and then you can find more information. And very nice story that my friend John McGuire down in Florida helped me to write. And you can see, you can read more about this kind of background, how this album came out, and yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what is still fascinating to me is, like, with these live recordings. I mean, we know what the club looked like and what the size of the club was, right? And then you hear the mixed music, and it sounds so huge. It's Pat, what do you say about that? I mean, you have recorded so many live albums, especially with Crimson. Like, there's you know, maybe like the smallest, most intimate gigs may sound like huge, and then really big ones sound really bad. You know, it's is it just the engineering, or has it something to do with the performance as well? What do you think?
Oh, I don't really know. I think if you're not there, you don't know how many people were there. So, you know, it was a big sounding room, actually. I think there's brick behind me. I can't quite remember, but the room wasn't really big, but it did sound big in the room. And that's part of Fraza. He's usually a little too loud and things sound a little too big.
It's
so
Robert online.
Playing on stage.
It's Robert online. Maybe he can say something about recording of the show.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he's here. Are you here?
No,
I can't see everybody.
No, I didn't see him.
Okay.
But he can unmute himself if he's here.
It's kind of big on stage, and they had the vibe. I can't remember. They were playing videos before we went on stage. Weren't they, like old Blue Note stuff? It sort of set.
No, they're upcoming shows that did happen.
Oh.
Yeah, there are videos of upcoming shows, promoting the shows that actually never happened.
There were videos of things that hadn't been played yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's the video I watched last night, the Blue Note movie on Netflix. That's really good.
What's that? What's that? The Blue Note movie?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. It's on Netflix. It's great. I'll send you a link to it. I watched it yesterday.
Yeah, great. Oh, I'd like to see it.
So let me share a little secret related to this volume issue that Pat just pointed out. Tony was actually, as you just heard, like singing Prog Noir, and also the softer tune Crack in the Sky, which has a spoken word vocal. And so only you guys who are here tonight will know that we actually had to re-record those vocals because they were hardly in it. They weren't on tape, really. Because as you know, Pat is a great drummer, also very, very loud. Like he really makes the drums speak in a way like nobody else does. But that also comes with the volume. And Tony being just like maybe not even 6 feet away from him, the vocal microphone, he always has to fight with that. And so Tony actually used this little, and I don't even know what it's called, Tony, this little device that, like a proximity thing that opens the, can you explain what that is, please?
I think a lot of, am I on?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of singers use it. It's a proximity detector.
Okay.
Turns the mic on when you get near it. I've also tried many tours with a foot pedal to switch it on and off, but I have enough foot pedals with the stick that I sometimes get confused and
Yes.
switch my vocal mic off, which may not be a bad idea. But anyway, this tour I didn't do that. So I think I was still new to using it, but a perfect world, it would only when I got about this close to the mic, it would turn itself on, and the cymbals would appear in the mix.
Yes.
I
Oh,
had
there's
forgot-
no cymbals when Tony sings.
Ah,
Get off the cymbal. It's always hi-hat.
okay.
Yeah, but
Tony, I'm so impressed
that's
that
a
you're
symbol, I
singing.
guess.
I was
I'm so
you all
impressed that you're singing.
Thank
Tony.
you. You all heard Prog Noir, and you heard the story that I asked for Gary to be not in my mix. That didn't mean that I didn't hear him, because of course the PA is playing everybody, and it was wonderfully approaching atonal, which is, I have a little trouble singing in tune when it's tonal. So it was a good challenge, and I was surprised when Markus sent me the vocal to redo, because there was just too much leakage of other stuff. I don't sing very loud, and the drums were loud, but I was surprised that I actually, you'll have to take my word for it, I did kind of sing it in tune. I did it okay.
you
So
did.
that
Yeah.
wasn't why I redid it, but my fear was that the one show of the tour we're going to do, I'm going to be horribly out of tune, because frankly, on that piece, I have trouble hearing the pitch from my instrument, from the stick, which is playing really low, and consequently, I turn Markus up really loud just to get the pitch center in my head before I start singing, and and there was Gary playing just stuff I loved, but I needed to not hear it too loud on the night. And now when I hear it, somebody, one of the listeners here in the room mentioned Bitch's Brew. And indeed, it was like stickmen take a walk down the plank with Bitch's Brew. It was great fun. Great fun.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I mean, Tony, you're doing these intervals in this song, man. I mean, you're down here and you're, up in the stratosphere, and then you got the mid-range stuff. I mean, you got some serious pitching to do in that song.
No,
But
thank you.
it's beautiful, and your voice is amazing.
No, thank you.
Bitches brew.
Yeah, and anyway, I'm very happy with the record, and I took some liberties. Like I said, I treated it more like a studio record. So, there were moments when something was just missing. Like it always happens when recording, that there are like certain, like some notes are missing. Like so there's a glitch and stuff like that. So I remember, like for level 5, the piece which I'm going to play next, I had to find some stick parts that I could use to repair some notes, and I actually had to go back to a show from Reggie's at Chicago in 2015 or something that sounded like the sound that Tony had on this show in Nagoya. So just to replace a few notes, and this is really, this is what I said, like, because Stefano, he had to get something that was kind of like right, because he couldn't redo anything. So I tried to get the edits right before. And it was challenging. And with the piece level 5, because it is the Crimson tune, we had Gary there. He only had 1 or 2 chances to play it, I took the liberty and used a section that's called as the thracking section, where it's like 7 against 11. And I actually took the solo Gary played on the second performance that night of level 5 and moved it from the solo section on top of the thracking section. So that's why now in this version, we actually have 2 solos of Gary in level 5 that were, you know, and like the first solo that wasn't really played there, I had just moved it there. And I think it sounds fabulous. And I'm going to play it to you now, and we'll be back. This piece is kind of long, like maybe 7 minutes, but I think it makes sense to play the whole thing. And I hope you enjoy it. So
The long tunes.
yes. Oops, sorry. This is not easy here to handle. Here we go. This should be Ableton. Okay, here we go. And level 5. that was that.
Holly Schmidt. That was brutal. Brutal.
Brutal.
Brutal.
It's also beautiful.
Yeah.
I really like it a lot, this version. And somebody asked in the chat, like the differences between the original or the 8-piece arrangement and the trio arrangement. And like what I noticed, like when we were sitting at that table, when we got the bad news that the tour would get canceled, Gary and I we started looking at his notes and his the notes he made about the pieces, and I realized that he had only listened to the trio version and the version with David Cross. So basically, there was this one part that Adrian Belew originally played in the piece that he didn't know. So Gary kind of referenced the trio version, which I still find wonderful, because basically it's a slightly less dense arrangement that he added to, and I think it just works beautifully. And yeah, I mean the difference really is with this kind of piece. There, like Robert Fripp and Andy Belew, they did these interlocking guitar parts, and like when these parts are offset, then I just try to play what both of them did, but just as one line. But there are sections here in this piece where there are two parts that are going in parallel, but in like opposite directions, like same pitches, but going in the opposite direction. And that's something that I can't do. And through experimentation, I tried to find the part that was dominant. And it turns out that really the part that is dominant is the one that you hear on the recording now. And it doesn't really seem like so much is missing, especially also because Stickman actually plays the middle section that King Crimson has stopped playing, I think, even in 2008. Pat, do you remember? I think when I saw you guys in New York in 2008 on that tour, it was only you and Gavin doing the thracking and nobody else.
Oh, that the guys never want to learn the chord changes anymore. Yeah, we've been just doing the drums for a while.
Yeah. We play the section, but the guitars don't play. So it's the drumming. Robert wants it that way.
Yeah,
it's a bit odd. It wasn't my idea.
We've asked them a number of times. Could we play that other stuff? Nope.
No. Okay. Yeah, but
it's truncated down a little bit shorter too. Cut about a quarter out of one of the sections there.
Yes.
We do it.
Yes. Yeah.
For the drumming, it's quite different because we split it between 3 drummers. So in the simplest form, it's sort of like I became the bass drum with the loud downbeats and the sort of tripleted pattern, and Gavin sort of became the backbeats, the snare drum. He's playing more activity up there, and then it left Rieflin or Jeremy became sort of the hi-hat function, which was in our version or the original Crimson 2003. I had a beatbox running with me, actually a couple of them that I slave up different 16th notes and sort of little whatever glitchy patterns, and so that was what Bill sort of supplied. So that's sort of how we merged the 3 drum kits, in that we sort of, instead of taking turns playing, we all play at the same time, but we each have a different function. So that's a little difficult for me sometimes. We come back to play it, or I go back to play with Crimson more often. It's the other way. I go back to Crimson and then I step over the bar line and play the other guy's parts. Oops.
Yeah.
I have a question, guys. Ian wisely asked, how did the idea for this quartet come about? And I don't have a clue. I don't remember. Anyone know?
Leo.
I'm the guy, because actually me and Markus were in La Casa Morada in Spain recording doing several recording sessions, and Markus and Gary played for the first time, recorded with Dusan Jevtovic, a Serbian guitar player who lives in Barcelona, that Tony, you know. And then that's when Gary and Pat and we were kind of talking about possible collaboration between Markus and Gary. And then I said, oh, we had, why not with Stickman? because we had a violin player and we had a sax player. And if we go to Japan, it will be nice to introduce different instruments like keyboards. And Markus immediately liked the idea. And then, then me and Markus, I think we say that to Pat and Tony, and both of you guys were very enthusiastic. And Gary said, me? Wow, I cannot play with those guys. Those guys are monsters.
He actually said monsters.
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 Yeah. And but that
He didn't
was
say monsters.
yeah, that was a little abracadabra, that we did. And of course, when we go back to Japan, we will do more shows. But we are not sure if we can go in January. I don't think it's gonna happen. I have to see when we can go. And
I'd like to hear you say abracadabra again.
Yeah. And but it was great, even though it was only like 2 sets. And what's happening, like this show supposed to be kind of almost full, but not so many people came, because even in Japan, in Japan, ticketing works in different way. Japanese people, they reserve tickets and they pay like the day of the show. But a lot of people, like at least 60 to 70% of people that reserve tickets, they didn't came to the show because they didn't want to interact with other people. That's why our audience was actually very intimate. We expected to have at least 200, 250 people, but we had only like maybe 60, 70. And but the band played like it was like in front of 1,000 people, and that was another little element of that. Everybody was feeling that something is happening, that this little monster from who knows where is coming to our lives.
Yeah.
Hey, tell me or remind me, Leo, originally there were about 8 shows?
No, originally we had to do like
10?
9 days, nine. Hong Kong, 1 show with Blue Note in China, Beijing and Shanghai, 2 nights each, but 2 shows per night, which means 8. And then in Japan, in like 4 nights, 1 in Nagoya, 1 in Osaka, and 2 in Tokyo, double shows. And actually our shows in Tokyo were sold out, but unfortunately it didn't happen.
I was going to mention, when you first proposed the idea, I was a bit apprehensive because I'm like, what am I going to do? Gary's an incredible drummer. He said, no, he's just going to play keyboards. I said, well, that you got to have him play drums. So it's like, I'll step off. So I was already envisioning that if we had these 6 or 8 or 10 shows, whatever we had, that every day we would sort of redevelop the material.
Right.
Yeah.
And I thought I could prepare, and I had prepared some stuff in my laptop. I didn't bother to put it on stage that night, but I was going to try to play DJ so I could get some hyper tempo going, so that we could see Gary do all that that stuff, So I regret we didn't get more shows. So we could have
Look,
found a way.
definitely next time we will try something.
What stuff
like,
again? What was that? What
like,
stuff?
Tell us something.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm from the way I came to drums. That's very nice of you, Pat, by the way. But
It's true. There's nothing nice.
Oh man, no man. I mean, there's so much colossal what's happening with you. It's just you in there, and it's everything.
2 drummers in 1 guy.
Note.
Anyway, I'm jealous when I hear a great drummer. I want to play with him on keys. So, I was the one benefiting, really. But the thing is that I was going to say, what was I going to say?
We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, I dearly hope we can.
It's going to happen. Don't worry. You have Nardini, the guy who makes everything possible. It's going to happen. Like it or not.
I can change the subject by sharing this with you. On the opening piece, I had to figure what can I pack to actually take to this gig in my suitcase. So I got these little metal pieces of the road that we picked up somewhere. It's actually a guy in Colorado called Morph Beats. And you can hear it pretty well on the first improvisation on there. They sound like little marimba xylophone stuff I'm doing. But I just lay a bunch of these little, and they only weigh a couple pounds, and they just slide right in the luggage. So, anyway. And the second set, actually, I remember too, also to pack quietly, I packed something like this for the second set. So there's actually a picture, Tony. You can see me with it in my hand behind before we go on stage. That's how we started the second show improvisation, was something like that. So I thought that could be our creepy improv, you know. First one was peaceful, the second was creepy.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just to kind of end things, I want to just say a little bit more about the packaging of this.
Yeah.
My good friend Hajo Müller, who is from Düsseldorf, Germany, who is a wonderful illustrator and also photographer actually, but he made a few illustrations for us already, also the Pan America disc or box set. But for this album, Stickman featuring Gary Husband, OWARI, or however it's pronounced in Japanese, I don't know.
OWARI.
Okay, OWARI. So I had the kind of like the sense for quite a while, and I hope that Tony and Pat agree that when we released Proc Noir and we started touring Proc Noir, I remember what that we called like the first tour Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and then it kind of developed that we invited guests, and we had Stickman plus David Cross, and plus Mark Collins, and now Gary Husband. And it felt to me that this was sort of like really the natural end of that cycle. And it was long. It was almost 4 years, I think, of touring Proc Noir, that material that was like really very popular with the fans. And so the idea for the cover was to actually take kind of like the character from the Proc Noir cover, which somebody else did. John Burgeon did that one. And I asked Hajo to make a metamorphosis of that character, like way into the future, like an old man who has really traveled the road for too long. And it was really kind of quite appropriate for me, this idea to call this album The End, not wanting to say it's the end of the band, but it's the end. I mean, it certainly is the end of the club, Leonardo, right? The club has closed and it's not going to come back.
Yeah, the Blue Note and Nagoya unfortunately closed, but we can play Nagoya at the bottom line if you go back to Japan, but unfortunately Blue Note Nagoya closed. Okay. But Billboard Live in Osaka and Tokyo are still there. Like, okay. You know, and we can eventually do a couple of more shows in Japan, but let's see. You know, I have to see like what is available and when we actually can tour.
Yeah. Okay. So the artwork of the deluxe edition features this 24-page booklet. It's actually not a booklet because the whole thing is a book, and you have these photographs from the road, which I think are always kind of wonderful to look at, and they tell a very unique story that is kind of like different from the music also, and I like that very much. And there's one photo in there that I don't even, well, maybe I'll try to, no, I'm not gonna try to explain what it is, but it really is, you know, it's like one guy with a mask on and the 3 or 4 of us without masks. Yeah. Like the Japanese guy, he was already wearing the mask.
Yeah, but Japanese are wearing masks like for many years, you know.
Yes,
yeah,
but
we couldn't get them. I remember I was thinking, should I bring masks to Japan? I said, well, of course not. There's masks everywhere there. And then they said, no, we can't get them.
Yeah.
I bought the last one at my connection at LAX. So I had 2. The one I gave Fraza to go home and the one I went home with.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you everybody. I mean, if there are any, has anybody followed the questions in the chat? Is there anything important that we should answer? Did anybody follow that? You can speak up.
I saw something about Alan Holdsworth on Syntax. They must have been referring to you, Pat. That's all I can think of.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry.
Did
I
you hear
didn't know
me?
we had a chat. What's the question?
No, there's a kind of streaming, well, not a streaming thing, but the questions are appearing at least on my screen at the top right.
Yeah, I found, well, for me, they're in the
And
middle. I
another.
found them. I have to open up a chat window. Sometimes they go
Oh,
across very
okay.
fast, but no.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Fuck
Yeah.
me, the best version I ever heard. Okay.
Yeah, somebody asked if there's going to be a 5.1 version. No 5.1 version, and yeah, there's something else, like something unique. As with all shows in the past 8 years or something of Stickman, we played the piece open, and we also played the piece open twice in Nagoya. And I actually chose to not include it because there are so many versions out there already. However, when we realized that Leo wanted to make a double vinyl, so we were short, one piece short, really. Like we had 15 minutes or 20 minutes left on side 4. So then I decided, okay, I'll just make a really strange abstract, like remix of open, of both the open performances from both shows. And what I did is I only used Pat's drum loop and my soundscape, so the backdrop, let's say, and Gary's keyboards. And it's a unique track which will be on the vinyl and on the deluxe edition CD. But my plan is I don't want this to be out there digitally at all. This is my idea, and it's really amazing. At the very end, I've also used some of the talking that Tony did during the show in the piece. And at the end, he says, "This is the end of the show," and that's also the end of the deluxe edition of the record. It's powerful. I mean, goosebump
Great.
moment. Yeah. So
Great.
I'll encourage
Can't wait to
everyone to support us and get the deluxe edition. Obviously, Leo has already asked me to design the standard edition. That's also already done. So I guess he expects the special edition to sell out, right?
Of course, a regular edition we will make it like later. We
Okay.
need to enjoy this one first.
Yeah.
But actually, I'm very glad that I'm monitoring also people that are responding with sales. And we are very happy. Like all musicians and people that are involved. Because this was a relatively expensive project, and it's a tour that we did make so much money because we had 8 shows cancelled. But we are very glad that people in virtually in only like 60 minutes, when actually 45 minutes since I unleashed the dogs on Bandcamp, that we are doing very good sale, and it's promising because it's very unique project. And me and Markus would like to continue with this kind of unique projects, and also to continue with this living the dream Zoom. Maybe Markus, you can talk more about this, what this idea, living the dream, represent.
It's just, I mean, really in the world that we live in right now, where it's so hard to connect with the people that kind of belong to your tribe, let's say, using Zoom, even though it still feels awkward to me, but it's like the one way that we can connect. And obviously for us performers, like for me, Stickman was my main source of income. And that's gone for the whole year, and it's really kind of, I'm facing a complete makeover of my life, just as Tony and Pat and Gary and millions of other people that are involved with this business. So the idea is to actually use the opportunity that I have and we have time to do this kind of thing, is to do something that is more than just entertainment. It's something where people like sort of a tribe gathers, and we share information, we educate each other. And so that's the idea of living the dream of the series. And I'm determined to continue this, and I'm changing the format slightly every time. Like sometimes I'm actually asking for donations specifically. Here now, this is more like a promotional thing we do, right? We ask people to go and buy the record. But there were other events which are completely free. Then I'm actually doing courses, like about like the soundscaping I do with the guitar, with the laptop, you know, how to program the pedal board, you know, all these things, which was very successful. The first volume of that, I'm going to do 4 volumes total on that. And so, yeah, it's you know, like Tony, Pat, Adrian Ballou, and I, we usually in August we have the camp in the Catskills, 3 of a Perfect Pair camp, and where more than 100 people come together and share their music and you know, like learn from each other, and this really has been missing this year. And I think there's the pig. Pat is showing the pig. Yeah, it's the camp pig. And anyway, like this, you know, living the dream. It's just, I hope that you guys who are now on the mailing list, you know, stay on the mailing list, and whenever there's an event that interests you, please join. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Markus will do like his own things. I will always participate, but a couple of them we will do together, because we are doing a lot of projects together, and we have actually a plan. We are planning a couple of them in next few weeks, and we will let you know.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Okay.
Important question. Do we wait till Friday to purchase this for Bandcamp Friday or not? A bunch of us.
It's up to you. It's up to you. You know, we also like Bandcamp, and we don't mind, you know, giving a little money. But if you want to wait, you know, then you can wait. You know, it's up to you.
But if you wait, don't forget.
Yeah, don't forget. I will remind you. I know very well.
I'm not going to forget.
Henry, I know you. I know you.
And we really, really like Bandcamp. Those are the good guys.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are good guys, you know, and you know, it's amazing. Like, you know, I'm using this since 2012, and literally changed my my life, because I believe that without Bandcamp I wouldn't be able to run my indie label. You know, I have now like 107 releases, and it's going just down. Like, you know, you cannot sell records anymore. But with Bandcamp and with this kind of new interactions with fans, you know, things are okay. You know, we are not selling a lot, but, you know, at least we can have little satisfaction, making little money, and just keep going, you know, and see what happens. And
Yes. Hey, so Leo, which other events have you planned for us in the next few weeks?
I would like also to talk about Gary Husband, because me and Markus are partnering with Gary, and we have his Bandcamp that is featured on my label's Bandcamp website. It's garyhusband.bandcamp.com. We started with a couple of releases, and we will just add more and more releases. And I encourage you to go to his Bandcamp. And in a couple of weeks, we will schedule one special Zoom meeting just to talk about Gary Husband, and we'll invite some special guests, some very well-known musicians that are colleagues of Gary, and many fans, and we'll talk about that. Then there is another project on Moon June that I'm releasing very soon. It's of Indonesian pianist and keyboard player Dwiki Darmawan, album that was recorded at La Casa Morada in Spain 3 years ago, but it's only coming now, and Markus Reuter is on that album. It's a very crazy album of completely crazy, insane improvised music. Also, we have Boris Alodelli from Italy on vocals, and Asaf Sirkis on drums. We will do like special Zoom talking about this album, where we can talk also about improvisation, which is a format that, you know, me and Markus, we like all kind of music, but we also like a lot improvisation. It's a very unique way of improvising. Then we have just finishing with our friend Anthony Garone from Phoenix, from Arizona, from Make With Music. We are finishing editing of the whole show in video of Markus Reuter with Tim Moser and Kenny Grohovsky. That album just came out a few weeks ago, and we would like to present that movie, and maybe parts of it, maybe then that will be available on special, going to special link. It will talk also about improvisation, and then we will plan some others, and we will let you know.
Great. Okay. So thank you, everybody, and I hope you have all the links. Yeah. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Pat. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks everybody
Thank
for
you,
coming.
Marcus.
Everybody else.
Thanks, my friend.
Thank you, Tony, for your extra kind of like a Zoom account, because we have more than 100 people. We at certain point we had like over 200 20 people, and which is great. Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Great
you,
to see
everybody.
all you guys.
Thank you.
Miss you.
I guess I'll leave the room open for a while if people want to chat with each
All
other.
right. Yeah, you know, like Bernie, nice to see you, Bernie. Bernie Quiroga, nice to see you. Viva Chile. I see a lot of nice people, and I also like to see like very young people. This guy who is a son of friend of mine, he's only like 20. Pavel Ljubicic from my hometown, Jajce. He's on Zoom, and it's very nice to have not just people of my age and older, but also people that are kind of 20 years old. They like kind of music. It's very encouraging seeing young people. I see also a couple of other young people. That's very nice and encouraging.
Yeah, great, great.
Okay.
Cool.
All
See
right.
you. Thanks.
Okay, guys. We'll
Bye-bye, everyone.
wrap up here, and thank you for support. Go to Bandcamp, buy some stuff. Support us. If you support us, we can make more stuff. You know.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye, bye,
I'll
everybody.
put your chat.